Good evening and welcome to VChess. My name is Naiditsch. I am a chess grandmaster, and today the second round of the candidates. Yesterday we saw fantastic first round, a lot of results, just one draw and 3 wins by white. So the white color is currently dominating the candidates, even though the game's been very sharp. So especially the game between Sindarov and Esipenko could have ended with a victory eventually for black, but finally the white won. So the second round, let's go immediately to the game of Esipenko and Nakamura. What do we have here currently on the chessboard? What do we see? We see, in my opinion, a slightly better position for white, because we have this better pawn structure. As you can see, c6, a7 versus a better pawn structure for white with b2 and a2. Theoretically, there could be a pressure here on the c file against the pawn on c6. The knight on f6, not doing perfect against the pawn on e4. On the other hand, white is not capable of playing the move e5 because there is knight on d5. So the bishop from g2 has to protect the pawn on e4. On the other hand, sometimes we might play the move f3 and get the bishop over f1 into the game. So personally, I don't like so much the knight on f6. Still, of course, it's not like it is a very dangerous position for black, in no way, but I think a good evaluation of this position could be plus equal. So slight advantage for white. Not a very big one, but quite a pleasant one. No risk for Esipenko, so he can push against Nakamura in the current position for a long time. Nakamura lost yesterday to Caruana, quite an unpleasant game, so not easy for him today. Esipenko lost by a blunder yesterday against Sindarov. Both players wish to get some kind of winning chances. Let's see how the game is going to proceed. Currently, I believe white is doing slightly better. Caruana and Giri. So Giri white yesterday losing with the black pieces to Praggnanandhaa, losing an endgame, which I believe Giri is quite unhappy to lose, because Giri is just so safe, so he saves most of the worst endgames. Yesterday he could not do that and he lost. Today I'm sure he wants to push with the white pieces against Fabiano Caruana, who is, I guess, very happy by his win against Nakamura yesterday. Usually Caruana is not doing so well against Nakamura, but he managed to win. And today, I think he's perfectly fine with holding the game into a draw. What do we have here on the chessboard? We have bishop versus knight, so it gives some small edge to white. We have here quite an active rook. On the other hand, we have so limited material on the board. So let's say if black would manage to change the rook's position, would be just a draw. White is going to try to avoid the change of rooks. So let's say in case we play king e7, there is rook c6. We try to put some pressure here on b6. No easy ways to change the rook. On the other hand, position of course is in no way dangerous for black. We have easy moves like knight on d7, protecting the pawn on b6, and then we try to get our rook into the game, or to play king on d8 and then rook c8. So just imagine we go here, knight on d7, with the idea king on d8, followed by the move rook to c8. Maybe it's a bit smarter to start with a move king on d8, not to allow rook c7 to happen. Then we play knight on d7, then we play rook c8, and this is gonna be basically a draw. So most probably we will see a draw in the game Giri against Caruana in the second round of the candidates. Let's take a look on game number 3. We have VE with a very fast draw. Yesterday was a black pieces against Bluebaum, so VE, he is fantastic in tactics. Chinese player, very sharp. He became one of the youngest grandmasters in the world, but it's already like maybe 10 years ago approximately. And since then, he is one of the top chess players of the world. he managed to qualify to the candidates over the World Cup. So I think he's one of the dark horses of the tournament. In case VE will be one of the players fighting for the victory in the tournament, I would be not surprised. And he's white now against Praggnanandhaa. Yesterday, beautiful win against Giri. Very, very clean. Played a very, very good game with the black pieces. So, what do we have here on the chessboard? We have here a French structure. So first we take a look what happens, and then we're gonna start from move 1. French structure VE with the last move f5 is trying to break the structure of Praggnanandhaa. In case black is gonna take on f5, very, very dangerous. We just take the pawn on c5. As you can see, knight d5 is coming next. So quite a dangerous position for black in my opinion. f5, nice push, but I'm sure that Praggnanandhaa, he thought he has a way to continue here with the black pieces. It might be something very, very tactical, like knight e4, maybe first to take on d4. I'm sure he has something in mind, because it's so natural to play the move f5. It cannot be something unexpected, so he expected to get the move f5. So yeah, we will see. We'll see what Praggnanandhaa is gonna do. Black with much more time on the clock. We have 1 hour and 6 versus 33 minutes, so big time difference, but I believe that in the next couple of moves we will see if white is able to achieve some advantage or if it's just equal. So maybe VE will be not in time trouble because it just goes so fast. Let's go to the game number 4. We have Sindarov with quite a lucky win yesterday against Esipenko. And black is Bluebaum. Bluebaum yesterday was white pieces. Very, very safe game. He made a draw against VE, but in the candidates to be safe sometimes it's not enough. Still, we're in the very early beginning of the game, so obviously, yeah, of the tournament, I mean. So, draw is perfectly okay. Yeah. Let's take a look at the current position. We have bishop pair for white. We have an endgame, so theoretically white could be a little bit better. Even though we have a monster knight on e6, very good position. The structure is pretty closed. So is it better for white? I'm not sure. I think it's very close to be equal. In theory, the idea of white could be to play f4, play king f3, play bishop on d2, and then slowly get ready to play g4 or to play the move f5. So trying to get small advantage. Very difficult here to aim for more than that, but maybe the game is going to be long. In case the game is going to be long, then I believe Sindarov maybe will be able to push a little bit. But eventually the game is going to end very quickly in case black finds some good way to equalize here. Straight away, what could it be? Maybe idea of playing c5, maybe idea of playing bishop d6, rook e7, very fast to play rook e8, knight on g7, and trying to change some rooks on the e-file or get the knight on f5. So I don't know if there is a real chance to win this position with the white pieces. I believe some small advantage, yes, but not more than that. Welcome everyone to VChess. Nice to see you. I hope you're having a great day, great evening, great morning, wherever you are. It's evening for me because I'm living in the UAE. We are in the second round of the candidates spectacular first round. So let's see if the second round is going to be as exciting as the first one. Let's go back to the game of Esipenko and Nakamura, and let's take a look what actually happened here from move 1. We have Esipenko with a move c4 yesterday. Caruana first played the move knight f3, d5 and c4 against Nakamura, so Esipenko plays immediately the move c4, and we still have the move e6. So it seems like the preparation by Nakamura, because usually after the move c4, black has options like e5 and c5, and Nakamura is playing the move e6, so he's ready to play knight f3, d5, c4, e6, as we saw yesterday. So now different move order, c4, e6, g3 without the move knight on f3, d5, bishop on g2, knight f6. So we have the Catalan structures and the move c5. Nakamura is going for the very main line of the Catalan. Black has here many options. As we saw yesterday, d4 is possible, c6 is possible, bishop e7 is maybe one of the most played moves, and d takes c4 is also okay. So we have the move c5, white takes on d5, and short castle, bishop e7, d4. This is a very safe setup for white, but objectively speaking, black is very near to equalize. Black takes on d4, knight d4, and short castle. So we have a symmetrical position, as you can see. A perfect symmetry with an extra tempo for white. Of course, white is doing a little bit better because of this extra tempo, but it's not more than that. So looking at the current position, we could expect that the game most probably is going to end in a draw because both players have so high level. Small errors usually do not decide the game. But let's see how the game is going to develop. We have queen on b3, knight on c6. Nakamura seems to be a little bit surprised by this opening, by the way, because if we look at his time, here he thought already for 11 minutes. It's a bit too early to think for 11 minutes in my opinion. But it's alright. So we have the move queen to b3, not knight on c3 immediately. Maybe knight c3 is the more often played continuation here. We have queen on b3, knight on c6, very normal. Now black is having this war structures, but a very strong knight on d5, and we have the move e4. Interesting play, e4, hunting away the knight from d5 makes perfect sense. And Nakamura has to decide where to put the knight. To get the knight on f6 like in the game, or maybe to try to put the knight on b6, b4. All the moves are possible. He's choosing the very safe move, knight f6. Now we have a3, played very fast by Esipenko, so maybe it is a preparation. Because otherwise you don't play a move like h3 very fast. h3 has a simple idea, because in case we go rook to d1, immediately there is queen b6, and then we have the threats of knight g4 somewhere. So h3, it's a waiting move. Maybe bishop e3 is coming next. Bishop a6, unusual. This is quite unusual. Normally we see the move a5 followed by the move bishop a6. Why do we play the move a5? Just imagine we play the move a5. The idea is that long run, if black is gonna put some pressure on the b file, which could be expected, then white is usually defending by playing the move b3. So pressure on the b file, b3, and then we have the move a4 to equalize. So to play a5 would be pretty normal, or at least to try to get the structure with a move a5, or maybe queen on b6 first. We have instead bishop a6, quite unusual, rook to d1, of course, queen on b6, and bishop e3. Yeah, strong move, very good move by white, bishop on e3. The problem is that in case we take on b3, ab, this might be unpleasant. As you can see, big pressure here. On the a file, the a7 pawn might fall, knight on f6 against the e4 pawn, not perfect, so this might be plus equal endgame. Nakamura decides to play the move bishop on c5 instead. Take, queen on c3, nice move again. So Esipenko is saying, do you want to play this kind of plus equal endgame? Do you want to defend your position for the next 40 moves without any kind of winning chances? Nakamura is saying no, thank you. So he goes back, knight on d2, again, rook c1, b3, what could be more typical than that. And the move c5, also very typical. So what do we have? I think it's slightly better position for white. To my understanding, Nakamura is not playing a perfect game. I think he could have done the things a bit better, because now he has to defend. This position is not going to be an easy draw for black, in no way. So it's gonna be a very long game where Nakamura has to suffer. And it reminds us, in my opinion, a little bit on the game of yesterday. Caruana had a little bit better opposite color bishop position in the early stage, and this little bit better from step by step became a winning position. So Nakamura showed yesterday not really great defensive skills. Maybe he will do better today, and of course Esipenko is a very good player, but he is not Caruana. So Fabiano Caruana is definitely the number 2 for the last 20 years, so Esipenko is a level down on Caruana as a chess player, so maybe Nakamura will manage to defend the current game, but we will see. Please give me your comments in the chat. Do you believe that Nakamura is going to save the game today, this slightly worse position, or Esipenko will manage to come back in the tournament with a win against Nakamura? Personally, I think it's going to be a very long game. It's not going to be an easy defense for Nakamura, but I don't know. Very difficult for me to judge if Nakamura is going to survive or not. Yesterday he played quite unlucky, and I believe Esipenko might get some chances. So let me take a look at the chat. We have suggestion to play the move e5. Yeah, e5 is of course very logical, but the question is knight on d5. We attack the queen on c3, and what's next? So queen on c3 under attack. To take on d5 is usually not a perfect solution. Yes, it can be played, something like bishop d5. Then we try to play knight on b3, provoke the move c4 to get the knight on d4. Maybe, but I don't think that Esipenko is going for something like that, because it doesn't look so easy. Also, we have here bishop on c4, defending on d5. It looks to me possible to play, but I don't know. With this kind of structure, usually black has sufficient compensation, yeah. So, in my opinion, a little bit too early for the move e5, so I would just play rook ac1. I believe it's good to have the rooks here, d1, c1, maybe to play b3, and eventually after we can think about knight c4, we might think about the move e5, but still e5, I am not sure about the move e5, so I would try rather to play without the move e5 if I can. Maybe there is a way to prepare the move e5 to play something like knight to b3 instantly, and afterwards try to get the move e5 done. So yeah, let's see what happens. Let's go to the game of Giri against Caruana, because we have this endgame and we have rook d8. Actually, beautiful idea by black. Yeah, I didn't realize that rook d8 is possible. Idea is to play next rook to d6, rook c7, rook d7, so we just run behind in front of the white rook. After the rooks are going to be changed, it's going to be just a draw. So rook takes b6 is a must play, but now we have this check here, bishop f1 and simple knight on b3. Knight is getting to d2. The only way is to play king g2, but still knight on d2, nowhere to go with the bishop from f1, so yeah. This is just a draw. This is just a draw, beautiful defense. Rook to d8, very good. Of course, Caruana is not missing this kind of moves, he is just too good. I believe we will see now the move bishop f3, rook d6, rook d7, rook and so on and so on and so on. So this is gonna be now just a draw. Let's check a little bit how we got here. So we have d4, d5, c4, e6, knight on d7. Very unusual move order. Knight on d7, so not first, knight f6, knight on c3, and knight on d7, which is typical. But we have first the move knight on d7, the idea maybe just to take here. g3, still Giri is trying to go for the Catalan. Take. Bishop g2 and rook to b8. So the idea of black is to play without the move knight on f6. Very interesting. For those of you who are playing with the black pieces, this kind of structures, I think it deserves a lot of attention to play first knight d7 and rook b8. So we can learn from Fabiano something new It's a very, very rare move order for black, but seems to be not bad at all. So rook b8 was the idea of playing b5, so protect the pawn on c4, bishop b7 after, so we can wait a little bit with the move knight on f6. I think very, very interesting. Welcome everyone to VChess. Welcome to the chat. I hope you're enjoying the candidates yesterday. Fantastic first round. Now we are in the second round. So a4, quite typical, and also Giri played very fast the move a4. He knows what he's doing. b6, quite unusual play for black, I would say. b6 to get the bishop to b7, of course, extremely natural, but black might lose the pawn on c4. Now we have knight f to d2, so Giri is so well prepared. Anish Giri, he knows all the tricks, unbelievable, to play knight fd2, and so fast. He knows exactly what is going on in the current position. Fantastic preparation by Giri, because Caruana, I guess he wanted to surprise, but no, you cannot surprise Anish Giri. I see in the chat a question, who I think will win the tournament. I hope Caruana, I think he deserves, but of course, very hard to predict. A lot of good players. So, knight fd2. Pawn is under attack. a5 played by Caruana, both of them so well prepared. Knight takes, bishop on a6, knight a3. It seems to be a little bit better position for white. And Caruana, bishop b4, he sought for 18 minutes before playing the move bishop b4, so the first position where Giri managed to surprise Caruana, even though Caruana is choosing this rare line, and still Giri is surprising Caruana in the opening. Fantastic preparation by Anish Giri. Wow. So bishop b4, but it looks natural to play bishop b4 and to take. Oh, this feels not so natural. So he provokes a move bishop on d2 and takes. Knight e7 was the idea of playing c5 next. But why is the position of the bishop on d2 worse than on c1? I don't know. Hard to understand. Very difficult to understand, because bishop on d2. Alright, where is the big difference? Bishop on c1 or bishop on d2? I don't know. I don't know why Caruana chose to give a check first instead of taking on a3. So, alright, this is what we have. Two high-level chess, very difficult to understand. He provokes the bishop on d2 first. Wow. Okay, knight e7, this is logical. And here we have bishop pair for white. But there is c5 coming next, so white has to avoid the move c5. Can we do something against the move c5? Not easy, not easy, because let's say some regular play, rook c1, c5, it might be just equal. Maybe some very small advantage for white, but I think it is too small. c5, the pawn on d4 is going to be exchanged, and I think it's very close to equal. There's also the move bishop on b7, so in case black manages to change the bishop, it's completely equal. Maybe Giri, he knew that. I think he knew the move before Giri, because he played so fast. I believe Giri is not playing very fast in case he's out of book, so he's still in his preparation. He plays the move b4. Unbelievable preparation. Can you imagine how much effort it takes to have this kind of preparation? Incredible. Incredible. Just such a hard worker, Anish Giri, and of course excellent memory as well. To remember this kind of lines, so difficult because it is not a main line. So it's a side line in a side line, basically. So yes, let's see what happens next. We have c5, as expected, bishop on c3, knight on f5. So c takes d4 is a threat, after which it's going to be most probably a draw. In case white takes on c5, of course, knight takes c5, some pressure here on the e2 pawn. Looks like a draw. It looks just like a draw. So we have knight on b5, take, and knight c5, yeah. Maybe Giri hoped that he can push a little bit in this position because of the strong bishop on g2 controlling the a file, but it's maybe just too small. Rook to d1, now everything is getting changed and we have the position that we saw. Giri plays the move f4, rook d6, etc. And we will see a draw in the game between Giri and Caruana. Well, huge preparation. Of course, not a very exciting game, but it's so difficult to be as well prepared as Caruana, and Giri takes such a huge effort. So sometimes it feels so easy, but it requires such a knowledge to play in this kind of level. It's very, very high level game between the both of the players, which ends in a draw. Let me take a look at the chat. We have a question. I remember Aronian played this knight d7 idea in the World Cup. If white played knight c3, do you think Caruana would have just played the move knight f6? Well, I don't know. I don't know what is the preparation of Caruana. How can I know that? Maybe, but maybe not. So we will never know. We will never know. In any case, great preparation by Caruana. He manages to make an easy draw after the win yesterday with the white pieces. Today a safe draw with the black. Excellent start for Caruana. For Giri, more difficult. He lost yesterday with the black pieces. Today with the white pieces, he did not manage to put a pressure on Caruana, so not a great start for Giri. Yes, draw agreed, as expected. Let's continue with the game. VE against Praggnanandhaa. We have the move c4 been played by Praggnanandhaa. Is it a good decision to play the move c4? White can simply take on e6, and I believe this position is slightly better for white. Let's check. Take, and maybe something like even bishop on g5, but there might be knight e4 idea, so white has to be careful. Let me show it to you. Knight on e4, very, very dangerous. This pressure on the f file, so white has to be careful with the move knight on e4. Maybe bishop on g5 immediately. Is it something interesting to play the move bishop g5? Still the pawn cannot be taken. We take f6, we take d5. There are some continuations for black here with move bishop b4, for example. So we defend the pawn on e6 because of bishop e6. And maybe now we want to take on c3 and play the move knight e4. I don't know, it feels that white should have a better position. Feels better for white, but very, very complex. So VE has to find a good solution in the current position to try to get advantage. VE is usually tactically extremely good, yeah, extremely good. So maybe he will manage to find. Let us check what happened from move 1. We have e4, e6. Very surprising opening by Praggnanandhaa, because in the candidates we see usually the move e4, e5. Sometimes we see e4, c5, but e4, e6 quite rarely. So we have the main line with the move knight c3, knight f6. We have the move e5, absolutely the main. And bishop on e7. This is also what Iragasi is playing quite a lot. So the countryman of Praggnanandhaa, he likes to play the move bishop e7. This position's difficult to play because computer always shows better for white. But actually, they are quite tricky. I don't like these positions very much with the black pieces because it feels like you're so much squeezed. But maybe it's alright. So queen on d7, queen on d2, a6, bishop on d3. VE plays quite quickly. Maybe VE also knows these positions very well because of the match Dink Liren against Gukesh, and they had the structure, so maybe VE knows exactly what he's doing. Bishop d3, short castle, both players at the moment playing quite quickly, and we have short castle for white. The other idea is to castle long side, but maybe now it's too dangerous because bishop is on d3, so there's c4 coming. Another idea in the current position is to play the move h4, so we're getting ready for the move knight on g5, but of course this is all a theory, so we will not go into the details of the theory. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Welcome, welcome. In case you have some questions, please write something in the chat that bothers you. Maybe I will be able to help him answer your chess questions. And of course, please like, subscribe. You will help us very much with this little gesture to grow the channel. So, let me read the question. If you knew they had prepared in some openings, could you force them out of preparation? I don't understand the question very much, because of course both players are preparing, and it's very difficult to take out someone completely out of preparation, so it's never like that. You cannot play a move that nobody knows, at least not a good move. So it's not like you're gonna surprise someone with something that he has never seen before. This happens very, very rarely. Extremely rarely. The question is how the guys know the theory. They are working very much on chess, so it's like you're working 8 hours daily, you're repeating your lines. So they have a lot of people helping them in the preparation. It requires big work, like everything else. If you want to be good in something, you have to work hard. Let's take a look what happens after. So we have the short castle and f6. Praggnanandhaa continues playing very quickly. E takes f6. VE is taking quite a long thought here before playing e takes f6. Maybe he was considering if rook e1 is possible. Maybe something like f5, but all of this of course has to be checked at home because it's so complex, so many different options for white and for black. He chooses the most common answer at the move f6 just to take, and the move king h1. Yeah, this is useful. It's always very useful to have the king on h1 long term. b6. Praggnanandhaa still plays very fast. Yeah, b6 also very common because at some moment we might see this d takes c5. In the current position, d takes c5 is not working because there is d4, take, and queen takes d4 with a check. So we have no bishop takes h7. No time for it. That's why king h1 is being played. dc is a threat. We have the move b6 been played. Maybe it's a bit too early to play the move c4. Bishop on e2 and to play b5. I think white can answer with a simple move a3 to be slightly better. Maybe there is also knight on e5. So usually black has the idea of playing c4 and b5, but perhaps it's a bit too early at the moment. We have the move b6. Knight e5, what could be more logical than this? Queen c7, also very normal. Rook e1, bishop on d6. Praggnanandhaa, 10 minutes. It took him 10 minutes to play the move queen c7. Maybe he's surprised with the move knight e5. Maybe he was considering, is there an option to take on d4? So we can check it a little bit. Take. Now white can go knight c6, but then there's d takes c3 intermediate move, so we have to go knight e2 now, trying to capture the pawn back. Also very complex position, difficult to say if white is doing better. In any case, white is very safe here. White is for sure not doing worse, but if white is doing better, I don't know. Eventually, if white is capable of winning the pawn on d4, yes, the bishop on c8. Poorly placed, but there is some bishop c5 idea, maybe also knight e4 somewhere. So it has to be calculated, but maybe White is better, that's why we have the move queen c7 being played. Rook e1, so natural. Bishop d6, also very, very natural. Knight takes c6. Maybe already here, knight takes d4 might be a threat, that's why VE is taking on c6 and bishop on e2. Alright, bishop e2, bishop f3, actually quite a nice idea, I think, to get this f5 idea done. Nice. I like the move bishop e2, very creative and maybe also very strong. The other idea in theory would be try to get the knight from c3 over d1 to f2, but it takes a bit too long. So to play knight on d1, there might be c4 idea already, knight e4 with a tempo, so maybe too many tempos. Bishop e2, cool. Rook a7, rook is getting to f7, yeah, also this is very normal. Bishop f3, rook f7, and here we go with the move f5. Praggnanandhaa, again, I'm sure he saw the move. We have the move c4 played, and we have the move bishop g5 on the board. We expected something like that, so we are not surprised by the move bishop g5. Of course, the pawn is hanging. Question is what to play after the move bishop on b4. Is this a better position in case we play something very, very positional, like, I don't know, let's say a3, take. Is it better for white to sacrifice the pawn on f5, maybe to take, rook e5, so there is some domination on the e file. I believe white has enough compensation, but I don't think that white is doing better here, so maybe there is something stronger than the move a3. There should be something stronger. What could it be? Rook e5 immediately? Maybe. Maybe rook on e5 is the next move of white, but it's so complex now. Many ideas here for both. Knight e4 would be my first question. In case white is taking, we take back. Still quite an unpleasant pin. f5 is hanging here, some trouble on the f file. It looks like a good position for black to me, so maybe it's a good position, but also here I'm not so sure. There might be a move f6. Very, very complex. It has to be precisely calculated because it can be good for black, it can be good for white. Let's say if we take here on f6, there might be even bishop h6. Very, very interesting position. Very interesting position. The bishop here in c8 is completely out of the game. This is what is bothering me. Of course, to take on e5, we have the check on g5, king on h8, and I think just bishop g7 wins the game. No, of course it doesn't, because still the bishop protects the rook on f8, so this is not possible. We have to take on e5, king g8, and yeah, this is like a draw. Would be a beautiful draw, but probably I'm missing a lot of things. It's so difficult to comment. A very complex position, and I try not to use the engine. With an engine, we're losing the human understanding of the position, in my opinion. Let's see what will happen now after bishop g5. We have bishop b4 on the board, so this is very logical. We have the move bishop on b4. Maybe we have a simple solution like f takes e6, but I don't know if this is better. Once again, white is not risking anything. This is extremely obvious, but is it better for white? It feels like it should be better. But very precise calculation is needed, and usually VE is calculating very well, so in just a couple of minutes we will see if there is a way to put pressure on the position of black. VE was 22 minutes for the next 21 move. Quite little time on the clock of VE. There is no increment before the move 40, so this 22 minutes is all he has. In case the position gets complex, it's gonna be very shaky. In a complex position, couple of minutes usually are needed even for a top player like VE, so we will see a very interesting game here. Let's go with the last game. It is between Sindarov and Bluebaum. We continue seeing this kind of endgame where white might be able to push a little bit here. G4 might be available at some moment. How we got here? E4, E5, knight f3, knight f6. Bluebaum is playing the Russian defense, or Petrov as some people call it. Very many Chinese players are playing the move knight f6. The Petrov defense is one of the most solid openings ever. Very difficult to break. On the other hand, always a little bit of suffering with the black pieces. This is a downside of the Petrov. Very difficult to win, but as a solid repertoire is just perfect. So we have knight on d3. A rare line by Sindarov, not a very popular move, obviously. So knight e4, queen e2, queen e7, knight f4. Of course, it is still theory, but it's quite a rare line against Petrov. And the move f3, knight to f6, and d4. Sindarov is choosing to go for just a small advantage in an endgame, but it's such a small advantage. I don't think it's even fair to call it advantage. It's 50.1 versus 49.9. It's just so small. Let me read for a second the chat. The question is if the players are choosing some special tools to memorize something. No special tools, just the usual one. All of them have excellent memory and they're repeating the lines a lot, so no special tools, I believe. Then what else do we have here? Hello to everyone. Welcome to VChess. Please like, subscribe in case you're enjoying my comments or the content of VChess. So let's continue with the current game. We have bishop f5 been played very fast by Bluebaum, so he knows even this opening. c3. Alright, solid. Change, h5. It looks like almost an equal position, I would say. Knight on a3, knight on a6. Okay. A bit unusual to develop the knight on a6 and then to try to get to c7, but of course, still very solid move. Knight on a6, maybe more easy is to put the knight on d7. Also here, I believe just an equal position. Also d5 is looking pretty good. I think it doesn't really matter what you do here, it's pretty equal. So we have knight a6, knight on c4. Of course, to take on a6, I don't think it's a good decision for white. Yes, the pawns are not so great, but now bishop pair for black. It should be just easily equal. And that's why we have the move knight on c4, knight on c7, knight on e3, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to h7. All is so natural. And king on d7. Still no d5. I don't know. I think d5 is looking good for black. Why not to play the move d5? Very difficult to understand. Because d5, bishop d6, and then let's see. Maybe the idea of white is to go knight h3, knight on g5, but then we have the move bishop g6. I don't know why not to play just the move d5. It looks so solid, I believe it should be close to equal. King on d7, of course, not a bad move, but why not just to play the move d5? g3, very tricky move idea. Bishop f1 and bishop h3. This is a problem of the king on d7. Knight on e6, still no d5. Wow, no d5. It seems like both players somehow agreed that d5 is a bad move. Personally, I don't know. I like the move d5 because why not to play the move d5? And simple bishop d6 next. It looks to me to be very close to equal. Knight a6, knight on h3. No changes, of course no changes, because every change black is getting closer to a draw. Knight on g5, very logical. Bishop g6, yes of course. Bishop f1, bishop to h3. Alright, knight on h7. It's strange. The play of Bluebaum is looking very weird. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel natural at all what black is playing here. Knight, first of all we had this maneuver. Now we go knight h7, bishop h3. I think to take also deserves attention in my opinion. So such a position, can it be better for white? I think it can. Maybe not so much, but a little bit better, because we still have the move bishop h3 followed by king on g2. Also we have the ideas of knight on g2, knight f4. It depends. Black most probably is going to get ready to play the move e5 somewhere. So we have to see, or knight on g2 or f4 or king on g2. I think it's already slightly better for white. Instead we have the move bishop on h3, but also looks very logical. There is an idea of f4 f5. King goes away. We play knight f5 because the pawn is hanging. Interesting. No f4. f4, bishop on e4. Can white try to be better in the current position? I don't know. Maybe bishop d6 and h4 is coming very fast. So maybe not enough to be better. So we have the move knight f5. Because knight h4 is coming next, so black takes, and now we have this bishop pair position. So Bluebaum is not playing a perfect game in the moment. Before it seemed to be just equal. Now white is pushing a little bit. f4, yeah, because there is nothing else. King f3, g4, domination on the h-file. Long run, knight on g7, knight gets to f5, king f3. Positional game, all is very normal. Of course bishop takes, because in case we change pair of rooks, this is just a draw. To break this pawn structure is not possible, so this is just a draw. Bishop e1, of course. Rook f8. I think he's just pretending that he wants to play f6. f6 is a bad move, so black should not play it. We have the move g4 on the board. White is pushing a little bit. Black has to be careful. For example, this kind of position might be already unpleasant. Rook h7 coming next. And as well, white has the idea of playing a4, b4, so we start to push a little bit on the queen side as well. There's idea of b3, c4, so it's gonna be not such an easy defense. What does it mean? It means that black has to be passive here. But how to be passive? Because white can play bishop on d2 and then maybe we want to take and to play f5, or maybe we want to take and to play f5 immediately. So let me make you an example. Let's say black would not do much and just play the move b5, trying to be solid on the queen side. We might be able to take. Black has to take with a knight, to take with a pawn. This is horrible. f5. So knight takes, and here we might be able to play the move f5. The idea, again, we try to break the pawn structure of black, and here, yeah, black is already in a little bit of trouble. Not big yet, but white is pushing. So g4, interesting. Maybe we'll see the move rook to h8, but after rook h8, king on g3, I guess. And again, not so easy to equalize. AG now never possible. The next move for white, bishop on d2. The white has all the time in the world. So not completely equal. Bishop on d2, maybe king on g2, and then f5. White is pushing. White is pushing. It was looking like an easy draw after the opening, but now white is pushing. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the chat. What do you think? Sindarov against Bluebaum. Will Sindarov get a real chance of winning the current position, or Bluebaum is going to hold? I see in the chat a question. Could a 5 be a move for Black after the g4. f5, very, very dangerous. Interesting idea to play the move f5, but I think Bluebaum is not going to play it. It feels very, very dangerous to play the move f5. So first of all, these structures might be worse, except you're getting the pawn on f4. Are you getting the pawn on f4? So the idea, I guess, is to take here on f4 and to play g5. Maybe, but still, there is GH, and this might be game over, so very, very tricky. Maybe it does work, something like knight e6, but again, it's very forced. I don't know. I don't think Bluebaum is going to play something like this because it feels a bit worse. As well, there is a move GH, which is not so easy, and just to play the move bishop on d2. So f4 is protected, and the rook cannot be moved because then we're gonna take on f5 and take on h5. Maybe it is a draw just by waiting, but once again, it feels like white is putting pressure. Maybe draw, maybe not. White is gonna play b3, c4, trying to open the position a little bit. You have such a bad knight on h5. Positionally, very risky decision to play the move f5. I see in the chat, I believe Bluebaum is going to have a very difficult time saving that. Yeah, you might be right. White is pushing, and Bluebaum is having this tendency currently of being outplayed. So we started from a very equal position, I would say. And slowly, Sindarov is outplaying Bluebaum. For Sindarov, in case he wins the current game, it is just an unbelievable good start. 2 out of 2. What could be better? Yesterday he won a worse position against Esipenko, and today he starts with an equal endgame and currently outplaying Bluebaum. Let's go back to the game. Esipenko against Nakamura. What do we have here? We have b3. So Esipenko is choosing to play the safest way possible. A rook on d8 and knight c4. Alright, so change. We have the move e5. Tough decision to play the move e5, except you're capable of playing the rook d4 next, otherwise e5 is a mistake. Very, very dangerous to move f5 by Nakamura. And rook on c1. Okay, this is quite logical. So let's take a look what is going to happen after the move rook on d4. Now white has 2 options, to take and to go away. Both not so easy. So for example, take. Now the only open file is the c file, and Esipenko is having this domination on the c file. White has to be fast. So let's go queen c5. Let's go for an endgame. Endgames could be very unpleasant. We have the bishop versus knight. White is gonna play the move f3, go bishop f1. Bishop is getting active. Is it an equal position, or maybe white is capable of pushing here? I don't know, something in between, but it feels like a dangerous play from Nakamura, strategically dangerous. Why he did it? This is a bit strange, because why to panic so much and just to take the knight on c4? What would happen in case black plays queen c7? e5, we still have the move knight on d5 next. Well, queen c7 looks more logical. Of course, again, I'm not judging these top players in no way. I'm just trying to describe my understanding of the positions. They know it better. They are sitting there, they are working every move so hard, so not easy to comment. But to my understanding, bishop takes c4 feels a bit strange. I think there is no need for that. Now e5 is strategically extremely dangerous, so if something goes wrong now, it will go very, very wrong. So in this position, most of the positions black is going to escape, because even if you're slightly worse, it's still usually okay. But after the move e5, in theory, just imagine f3, the bishop gets to c4. This might be a very bad position. So rook c1, we have rook takes d1 and a5. Very, very risky play by Nakamura. Extremely risky play by Nakamura. Maybe it's okay, but he is risking a lot. If now something goes bad, that's it. White maybe could try even to play simple move as queen on d3 followed by queen on d6, not looking bad. There is f4 idea, so maybe queen on c3, attacking the pawn on e5, not so easy to be defended. Could be also an idea for white. Maybe even h4 followed by bishop on h3, controlling the c file with the idea of rook c1. So for example, we start with a move rook to c1, rook c8, then to play h4, bishop h3 next. I think Nakamura is under pressure. This is not an easy draw. 25 minutes for both of the players. Not an easy task to defend this position. In my opinion, Nakamura is risking now a lot. Knight on f6 is completely out of the game. There is only one good square for the knight from f6, and it is on d4, but to get to d4 is basically impossible. Rook on c1, trying to get the pawn on c5, rook c8 is sort of forced probably, and maybe the idea is to play f4, but is it not too early to push the move f4, maybe queen c3 first? And then we still have the option of playing f4, plus we have the option of playing the move f3. And we have here the bishop gets to c4, maybe also h4, bishop h3. Many options here for white. So we see the move rook c8 on the board. Very interesting what is going to be the next move of Esipenko. Maybe something very simple like a3, b4. Maybe just a3. b4 looks so dangerous. Black probably with a move like rook to d8. Let's see, take, but rook to d1 is not saving the game. We have the move king h2. Actually very beautiful. This is the idea of Nakamura, knight g4 and queen h6. Very beautiful, yeah. This is nice, and black is winning. This is a beautiful idea, but I guess Esipenko is not gonna miss something like this, so a3, maybe rook to d8 saves the game. Still, there is bishop f3, queen c5 next, but then there's the queen takes b3, so it might be okay for black, so there is no rush with the move a3. Probably white has to play something else first before playing the move a3. Good evening to everyone. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're enjoying the candidates. And of course, welcome to VChess. In case you like my comments, in case you like our educational content, our application, please like, subscribe. It would help us very much. So, by the way, I have a question towards you guys. Have you tried our application VChess? What do you like about the application? And what you dislike? Just your honest opinion. We tried to make the application as good as we could, and there is coming already an update quite soon, and about a month from now we're gonna improve on the app. But just to know your opinion, we hope to create an application which would be for the full family fun. You start on a very easy level, and then it gets more difficult. You get points, you have a lot of options, you have a lot of different games. So yeah, I would be happy to know your opinion. What do you think about our app? Let me read the chat. What do we have? Don't check the engine. We are commenting without the engines. Yeah. So let's see. Caruana, Giri, we saw it is a draw. VE versus Praggnanandhaa. What do we have here? We have queen to e2 by VE. He is going away from the pin. He is so tactical. Bishop takes c3. F takes e6. This is what I was saying about VE. He is so strong in this kind of tactics. Incredibly strong. Rook e7. Wow. Probably the problem, bishop takes e6. The problem might be the move queen takes e6. Is it a problem? Might be a problem, so maybe no draw. Rook e7 takes, and the queen goes away. So there is no more knight to e4, because before it was this nice f-line pin. No more F-line pit, but is it much better for white? I don't think so, but it might be a little better for white. Let's take a look. Knight on e4, so take. Now we can take with a rook on e4, or take first on f1 and then to take on e4. Let's say we take here first. Take. Now white can choose to play rook f1 or even to take and to play d5. Even this is a little bit worse for black. So maybe rook f1, take. And rook takes e4. There's queen f2. Queen e8 probably is the defense. And what can we do here? We have a little bit similarity to yesterday's game of Caruana against Nakamura, opposite color bishops, and just one side is attacking. So in theory, in case white gets now the bishop from g5 to e5, white is going to be much better, but it's not so easy to transport the bishop, so I don't know if this is a draw or white is capable of pushing here a little bit. I see in the chat, very beautiful idea, by the way. Yeah, nice. Bishop c1, bishop a3, but it doesn't work because we play bishop c1, h6, and in case bishop a3, there is simple king h7, no checks, no nothing. But otherwise, yeah, very beautiful idea. Bishop c1, bishop a3, excellent. Just it's not enough, I think, to be better. So maybe a draw. We will see. Maybe immediately bishop f4, bishop e5, but still doesn't look like it is enough. So is it possible just knight e4 with a draw? Let's see what happens next. So we have Sindarov, Bluebaum. Let's go back to the current game. And what do we have here? Is it a draw? Is it already a draw? What did happen here? g6 seems to fall, and of course if the pawn is going to fall, it's going to be just a draw. Let's see. So we have f5 on the board. Wow, this is surprising. Bluebaum was just 18 minutes on the clock. He plays the move f5. Very, very brave. This is very, very brave to play the move f5. It seems to be worse. So we have g takes h5, played by Bluebaum, played by Sindarov immediately. Why he played immediately the move gh? I think it deserves some attention to take on f6 and try to calculate here a little bit. To me, it doesn't look so obvious. Maybe it looked very obvious to Sindarov, but I think not so easy. For example, bishop on d2. Maybe black can take, but this might be slightly better for white. So there is knight e6, but after the move knight on e6, we have many options for white now. We have the option of taking on h5, for example. If I just take, how to equalize in the current position? It is not easy. Maybe bishop f4 is a move to be made. Is it a draw? Yeah, this is maybe a draw. So maybe we can start with a move f5. Let's take a look. So take. There's a rook h7 coming next. Is it a draw? Very near to a draw, yeah. But still, small pressure by white. This is still a small pressure by white. Not so simple. In any case, we have Sindarov taking on h5. Very, very quickly, and bishop d2. The idea to play against this bad knight on h5, bishop on d3, knight h7. Why bishop d3? A little bit strange play. Rook h7 with the idea of playing knight f6 next. Bishop takes f5. Wow. And Sindarov continues playing so quickly. Strange. Little bit strange play by Sindarov. Maybe he got nervous, or I don't know. Hard to understand. Why do you play so quickly? Maybe he thought that he's winning after the move g6, but just missed the move rook g7. Is it possible? Because otherwise, why do you play move like bishop f5? It makes no sense to me. Yes, there is idea of knight f6, but there are many ways to avoid that, so strange. very strange. I think he has missed the idea rook g7, king e6, because the g6 pawn is falling now, and I think it's just a draw. I cannot explain it other ways except that miscalculation by Sindarov. I think he could push in this position for a very long time. This is not an easy draw. But with the move bishop f5 and rook g7, king e6, now Bluebaum secures a draw. We are move 37, Bluebaum was 11 minutes for just 3 moves. And then we reach the move 40, so he gets extra 30 minutes. I think this is just a draw. Quite pity for Sindarov, so he was close. He was very close to push against Bluebaum, and was a bit strange play. I believe now it's just a draw. So he's missing his chances, Sindarov. Yesterday quite lucky, and today I think he missed his chance to push against Matthias Bluebaum for a win. Let's go back to the game of Esipenko against Nakamura. So we have white with a slightly better position. Queen on c3, yeah, we expected something like that. Queen on c7, Nakamura continues being so passive. h4, bishop h3 coming next. h6, well, I don't know also why to play the move h6. Why not to push the pawn to h5? I think Nakamura is in a bad shape. It feels so unnatural what he's doing. Maybe he's going to survive, but it just feels unnatural. It doesn't feel like he's playing a great game. Strange moves to have here: a5, c5, e5, bad knight on f6. It all feels weird. Basically from a slightly worse position. He is now once again on the limit. Bishop h3, rook d8. We cannot take the pawn on c5 because of rook to d1, and black is winning the rook on c1. But there is no rush for with white. White can wait a little bit with the move bishop h3. So maybe white can play the move bishop to f3. Just positional play. Next move is king on g2, and then let's see what happens. The pieces of black cannot be moved. The knight has only one way to go. It is knight d7, knight f8, knight e6, knight on d4. But it's a long, long way. Very, very long way for the knight from f6 to get to d4. It takes for so long, yeah. So I think Esipenko is trying to push 20 minutes versus 18 minutes. We are move 25, 15 minutes, 15 moves to go. Still, both players are not yet in time trouble. Ideas for white, or bishop f3, king on g2, or maybe to try to play the move f3, bishop on f1. It weakens very much the king on g1. On the other hand, we try to get this monster bishop, so is it enough to win the game? I don't know. We will see. We will see what happens next. I think that black is under pressure, and I believe white is going to push here for a win. Rook on c2. Nice move, nice move. Nothing wrong with that. Beautiful move, by the way. Idea bishop h3, queen takes c5, so no more trick here with rook d1, rook takes c1. Strong play. Rook to c2. Looks solid, looks good. Nakamura continues being under pressure, and this reminds a little bit on the game of yesterday against Caruana. Slightly worse, then more worse, and in the end Nakamura lost the game. So we have some similarity currently. He started with a slightly worse position after opening, and slowly the trouble is on the way. I see in the chat knight to e8 suggestion. It's possible to play knight e8, but the question is what you're gonna play after bishop h3. Rook is under attack, and then I'm just gonna play queen takes c5 and win the pawn on c5. So idea knight e8 is not bad to get the knight on d6, but how to get the knight on d6, and also you have to defend the pawn on e5 simultaneously. So not easy to make it happen. defense, not easy defense for Nakamura. I think he's gonna try somewhere to play the move a4, but where? To play immediately the move a4 feels bad. This is not an equal position. Also b4 is possible, so this feels a bit bad to play a4. Try to activate the queen. Queen d6. Yes, this is possible, but the a5 pawn is hanging, so maybe queen on d6 to wait for the next move of white, because there is this queen on d1 check currently, but queen on d6 quite poorly placed. Not sure. Queen on d6, same idea as queen on d7. Yes, this is correct. But white is gonna play f3, white is gonna play king h2. All the white structure is so safe. Then we have bishop h3 option or bishop f1. I believe black is suffering. It's not an easy draw. Not an easy draw yet. Let's continue with the game. VE against Praggnanandhaa. What do we have? We have a draw. We have a draw. So today we have much more calm day than yesterday. Yesterday 1 draw, 3 wins for the white. And now we have a lot of draws. So what happened here? Knight e4 indeed happened. Now we have the exchange and bishop f4. So VE does not find a way to play for a win. He gets the bishop to e5, but of course, yeah, it takes a bit too long. Now queen is on g6, bishop f5, bishop e4 coming next, rook f7 coming next. So this is just a draw. Yeah, both players agree to a draw. Black is pawn up, but of course, this is just a draw. This is just a draw. We'll see. Draw agreed and a couple of more moves. That's it. Okay, an interesting game. VE against Praggnanandhaa that ends in a draw. We had some tactical battles. Also from the opening point of view, quite interesting, because if you can play French like Praggnanandhaa did, well, and then maybe French is back, because currently we don't see so many games on the French, because it counted as quite dangerous for black, but Praggnanandhaa manages to equalize. Maybe French is back. Let's see if Praggnanandhaa is going to choose also the French defense in his next games. Could be. So, but then it would be already not a surprise. I think Praggnanandhaa surprised VE with the French. He expected much more the e4 e5 or e4 c5. So let's see what Praggnanandhaa is going to play in the next rounds. Let's come back to the game of Esipenko against Nakamura. Nakamura is thinking, and indeed it's not easy to play with this position with the black pieces. Not easy at all. 14 moves to go for Nakamura, 14 minutes on the clock, so 1 minute per move. There is no increment before the move 40. Not an easy task if Nakamura does something not exact. Being under this kind of pressure, no time and eventually no position, it might be very, very serious. So Nakamura has to play now very well. He has to play better than he did before. It feels like a Zugzwang position for black. Queen on c7 defending a5 and e5 cannot be moved, and rook on c8 defending the pawn on c5 doesn't look good. For white, f3 followed by king h2, bishop h3. One of the simple ideas here to play for a win. What can we do with black here? I think with black we have to try to be active. Nakamura waited for so long. It's time to do something. You cannot wait forever, so maybe still to try to play the move a4, even though it looks very dangerous to play the move a4. Personally, I don't think it is a good try to play a4, but maybe first to play g6, king g7, and then to prepare to sacrifice something, but also this is looking not so great. Is there a way to play maybe with a move g5, but this is looking bad. White is just gonna take on g5, queen to e3. Clear advantage for white in the current position. Doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to do that. Nakamura under serious pressure. 12 minutes for 14 moves. g6, yeah. So g6, king g7. Nakamura continues playing Very, very solid chess, but is it enough to hold the current position to a draw? I don't know. I'm not very convinced that this is enough to play draw. Let's take a look. Bishop h3. So in case we take on e4, there is queen to e3. Potentially f5 is possible, but queen h6 is possible. So to take on e4 feels very dangerous as well. We have queen on d3, queen c4. There is knight on d6. So this is not winning immediately. These positions, I believe, are better for white. Still some pressure here. The knight on e4. Next is bishop on g2. This is better for white. So bishop h3, rook to d8. Now we take, and is there a way to save this position into a draw for black? Maybe, but not so simple. So let's try to give a check and to play rook to d2, attacking the pawn on a2, and simultaneously knight takes e4. Could be dangerous. So now with white, to take e5 or to take the pawn on a5. Both is possible. Rook takes a5, knight takes e4. Now the bishop on h3 is pretty poorly placed. f2 is hanging. We have options like king to f3, take king to e3, rook b2. Bishop is under attack. It feels like maybe black is okay here. Maybe, not sure, but looks like okay for black. Instead, to take on e5, rook takes a2, pawn up for white, but we still have this horrible bishop on h3. In case we manage to get the bishop to c4, white is gonna be much better, but can we get the bishop to c4? Over c8 feels not the best. Because in case of bishop c8, simple rook to c2, attacking the bishop, and the bishop a6 move, there is knight g4. So now the pawn on f2 is hanging. Very difficult for white to play for a win in the current position. Just the bishop is too bad. Bishop is too bad. So I don't know. Let's come back to the game. We've been very focused on the move bishop h3. In the game we see the move queen e3. h6 pawn is under attack, and bishop to h3 is coming next. Yeah, looks pretty logical. The move queen to e3. We will see if king g7, I think king g7 or h5, there is nothing else. To play knight on g4 feels like you're going just wrong direction with the knight. So king g7, let's say, bishop on h3, rook to d8. Now probably rook takes on c5. Still big pressure here on the pawns. Rook to d1, king on g2. There is only one way for black to survive here, and it is to play for a mating attack. But it doesn't feel like black is having a mating attack here. Still, it's a fight. It's a fight. Maybe something like queen b7, trying to get the pawn on e4. In case white takes on e5, we have this idea of playing queen h6. But even here, it is not obvious. We have king to h2, for example. Now the bishop defends the square on f1. How is the current position? Is it enough to save the game for Nakamura? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is a try to play for some kind of long-term attack, but 2 pawns down. If the rook returns, that's it. Not easy, especially with little time on the clock. I think Nakamura will get now very nervous. The game is going bad direction for the American, and of course to lose yesterday, to lose today, basically that's it with the candidates, because you cannot qualify any longer. Starting -2 and to qualify would be just spectacular. Usually when you start with 2 losses in the first 2 games, you're in a bad shape. This is the worst thing. Yes, you might come back, but to win the tournament after 2-0s in the first 2 rounds, I think, realistically speaking, would be very, very unexpected. So, problems for black. 9 minutes for Nakamura, 17 minutes for Esipenko. Still, we are just moved 27, no increment. Till Nakamura is thinking, we can check if we have here VE against Praggnanandhaa. This is just a dead draw. I don't know why they're continue playing. Move 41. I think Praggnanandhaa is going just to offer a draw. It makes no sense to play this kind of position. Bishop covers the h4 pawn, king on d2. There is nothing to play with. Bishop e4, okay, bishop g5, king on d2, agreed to a draw. This is a draw. There is no way. There is no way to play this position for a win, so this is just going to be a draw. So we have at the moment 2 draws. Giri Caruana draw, Bluebaum Sindarov draw. Now we will see the 3rd draw, VE against Praggnanandhaa. So Esipenko against Nakamura could be the only decisive game potentially here. Nakamura under pressure. c5, e5, a5. All the pawns of Nakamura are not in best shape. There is bishop h3 coming next, but still it should be holdable, I think, with a very good play. So Nakamura has to start playing extremely well. And this might be the problem, that in case you're in bad shape, it's very difficult to play good chess. This is a problem. Not easy, not easy. Yes, indeed, the round is not as sharp as yesterday. Yesterday we had fantastic beginning round of the candidates. Full of fights, except the game of Bluebaum against VE. This was a fast draw, but all the other games just huge fight. Round number 2, more calm, more calm. So we have, what could be the defense idea of Nakamura currently? I don't think there is something better than to play king on g7, because what else? What else? What do you think? In the chat, please give me your opinions. Is there something better than playing king on g7? I don't think so. To go knight g4 looks too risky. To play h5 then feels possible, but why not to play h5 before, or why not king on g7? So I personally think we're gonna see king on g7, because I don't see other ways how to defend the pawn on h6. To give up on the pawn h6 doesn't feel like a great idea. It feels not good to give up h6, because it's not only that you give up on the pawn, but as well there might be weaknesses. We have the move queen on d8, protecting the pawn h6, because queen takes h6. There's queen d1, but I don't know if this is a good move. Looks strange. What happens in case I go bishop f3? So bishop on f3, c5 is hanging, h6 is hanging, knight from f6, not so many moves to go. Maybe Nakamura wants to defend over queen f8, but it feels so ugly to put the queen on f8. Doesn't feel good. Queen on c3, for example. e5 under attack, a5 under attack. It doesn't feel so good. I don't know. I don't like so much the move queen on d8, but let's see. Maybe Nakamura has some great idea. But in case he doesn't, it doesn't look well for Nakamura. Just 6 minutes on the clock. Still 13 moves to go, so he has just 30 seconds per move. I see a question in the chat. So I have a question. In rook versus queen endgame, why does engine says +2.5 if the win is, let's say, 30 moves away? Shouldn't it just be mate in 35? I don't know. This is a very strange question, and what engine shows you is also very, very strange, because usually engine shows if there is a mate, it is a mate. Also, we have table base. So table base shows you exactly what is happening. Table base can show you mate in 150 moves. So in case you have queen versus rook, usually this is not what engine shows you. Potentially you're working with a weak engine or with a very old engine. The new engines, they just give you exact evaluation. Alright, what do we have here? Bishop f3, we have an idea in the chat. It is to play queen on d4. Yes, it is possible to play queen d4 idea. Queen takes h6, rook queen d3, I guess. Nice idea, yes. On the other hand, can I take on d4? How is the current position? We have bishop versus knight. Maybe there is move e5, so we attack the knight. Yes, somewhere there might be the move d3, but is it enough to hold to a draw? Knight on d7, bishop g4. This looks like a worse position. I don't think it is a draw. Knight on e8, maybe. Now it depends how fast white is with king on d3. Maybe it's possible to hold this position to a draw, yeah? Maybe queen d4 is the way to play, but it feels again quite dangerous, so not sure, but maybe Nakamura, this is what he wants to play. Bishop f3, queen on d4. This is possible, yeah? Maybe white can try to play first rook to d2, so there is no rush. After a rook on d2, probably black has to put the queen on a very, very passive position here on f8, and now just bishop f1, bishop c4. This is looking better for white in my opinion. So we will see. Maybe bishop f3, queen d4 saves the game. So a rook on d2, followed by the move bishop f1. Maybe. Still, black is capable of making a draw, but black is suffering, so not an easy draw. Not an easy draw, but an excellent idea. Queen on d4 from the chat. Yeah, very, very nice. It's good to have good people watching. It's nice to see that you are not just listening, but you're thinking, that we're thinking together what could happen next. That's great. It would be just nice if you would write more often your ideas in the chat, because everyone is so shy. Not so many comments. Of course, we are serious, but we are not that serious. So I would be happy to see your ideas in the chat. Let's see what Esipenko is going to play next. Maybe rook d2. Oh no, rook d2 is being played. And queen b6 by Nakamura. Wow. Queen on b6. He gives the pawn on h6. Well, how is it possible? How is it possible that he gives the pawn? Something is strange. I don't understand the move. Queen b6. Looks very, very strange. What happens if I take? Maybe there is a move c4, but just a pawn up for white. It feels so weird to give up the pawn on h6. Very strange. Very, very strange play by Nakamura. I think he's hoping to play the move c4, but is it enough? So let's say I can take on c4, but to take on c4 as well, by far not a must. But let's say I take queen b1 check is probably the idea, because king h2, there is knight on g4, so bishop f1. And how do we equalize here with the black pieces? We cannot take the pawn on c4 because we have a checkmate there. So we have to take the pawn on e4. Let's say knight takes e4, but is it enough to equalize? Not sure. Pawn down for black. Maybe there is some compensation, but if this compensation is enough, I think not sure at all. Queen on h6, such a good position. h5 coming next, so I don't know if this is enough to hold to a draw. I see an idea in the chat to play c4 and knight on g4. What is the idea of knight g4 if I just go queen on g5? I don't know. I don't know what is the idea of knight g4. Maybe there is a trick, but I don't see the trick. So I don't know. I don't know what is the idea of black here. Let's see if Esipenko is going to take the pawn. Nakamura under huge pressure. Esipenko maybe is going to play the safe bishop f1, bishop c4, but usually in case you can take a pawn, you just take it. If there is nothing, white is going to be just a pawn up. So Nakamura with 4 minutes 36 seconds for the next 12 moves. He is under huge pressure here. Position is worse, plus no time. Esipenko, 11 minutes. 11 minutes on the clock. Much more time than Nakamura. Of course, 11 minutes is not like you have all the time in the world, but in comparison to Nakamura 4 minutes 36, it feels like eternity. Esipenko is considering taking the pawn on h6 or to play the move bishop on f1. Or maybe even bishop on h3. Also, this is very interesting to play the move bishop on h3. Attacks the rook on c1. Is it possible to play now rook on d8? Maybe. Maybe again, this might be just a draw. But it has to be calculated so precisely. White has pawn up. Maybe black is capable of taking on e4. White takes on e5. So for example, we take, and to do something very smart now with the queen. Maybe a check and then to play queen on c2. So it might be a draw. But it's always 50-50. White is pushing many positions. Quite tricky. I don't know. Not an easy task here for Nakamura to equalize. We have a question in the chat. Queen takes h6, rook to d8, but you're just a pawn down. So it's worse. It's just much worse for black. This is not equal. Pawn down, not easy to hold. So I believe queen h6 there is gonna be the move c4 played, but the question is, after taking, what is the main idea of Nakamura here? Queen b1 check looks normal, but after bishop f1, knight takes e4 also looks normal. Maybe there is something better than that, but it's not easy to see that. Knight takes e4. Now with the white pieces, what can we do here? We can play the solid rook on e2. We can go rook d7 maybe, more aggressive. Somewhere h5 might be an idea. Still pawn up for white. Not easy. I think it's not easy in this position to equalize, but it feels a bit risky for white. So Esipenko yesterday lost in a very good position, so he takes zero risk. Yeah, Esipenko plays the move bishop f1. He thinks for 5 minutes to take the pawn or not to take the pawn, and finally he plays the move bishop f1. So he wants to give as little chances as possible to Nakamura. I think it's pure psychology. Esipenko yesterday had a great position, miscalculated, but the position was complex. And now he does not trust himself as much as he did before. That's why we see the move bishop on f1. Bishop gets to c4. King g7 played by Nakamura, yeah, defending the pawn on h6. What could be more logical than that? And the next move is going to be rook to d8. Nakamura is still under pressure, so no big changes here. Not easy to play this position with black. With white, I think king on g2, f3, bishop on c4. This could be the next moves of Esipenko. But Nakamura survived. Nakamura survived the wars. I think he was on the limit. Now he's sort of back a little bit. Let's see. Let's see what happens next. We have the move a4 played by Esipenko, avoiding the move a4 by black, but now there's a weakness on b3, so bishop c4 is sort of must play next. Rook c6. Why rook c6? Little bit strange, little bit strange. The way Nakamura plays, it feels like he's in a bad shape because very strange move, rook c6. What is the idea of rook c6? I cannot understand the idea of Nakamura. Now we have rook c2 been played. Okay, so there is no more rook d6. And white is going to continue with the idea, or bishop b5, king g2, f3. So the knight on f6 continues being quite bad. Let's see what happens next. c4. Wow, Nakamura is entering a very dangerous endgame. c4, but very tactical. Just 30 seconds of thinking for Nakamura before playing the move c4. So c4, he pushes. Nakamura believes he cannot hold this position to a draw by slow play, which is actually making sense, yeah? Which is making sense to push the move c4. I think Esipenko is surprised by the move c4, so he's taking his time. Now white can take with a rook on c4. Looks interesting. So for example, we take a rook takes c4, queen takes e3, we take a rook takes on c4, we take knight takes e4. So now we have this bishop versus knight endgame. Maybe there is an idea of sacrificing by playing b4 and a5. Is there a way to stop the pawn for black? Maybe there is no way to stop the pawn. Maybe something like knight on d2, attacking the bishop on c4, followed by b3, b2, b1, but it feels so dangerous. So let's say bishop on d5, b3, a6, b2. We have bishop on a2, preventing knight on c4, a7, and knight on b6. So bishop is covering the pawn, and the knight is covering the pawn on a7. How is the current position? I don't know. It has to be so precisely calculated. King on f2, so we start to run. Maybe a draw, but very difficult to say. Very difficult to say. By the feeling, white is not risking anything, and it might go bad for black, but still it might be a draw. Let's go back. But this was just one of the options after the move c4. Yeah, the second option, of course, is just to take, and to take with a bishop on c4. To take with a pawn, also very interesting, because we take knight on e4, there is a move c5 now. Rook c6, we have the move bishop on g2. Very lucky for white to have the move bishop on g2. The pawn on c5 cannot be taken. Bishop takes e4, so this doesn't work. And in case of f5, we take on e4. And now we have this kind of rook endgame. Who is faster, the white king to e3 or the black king to d5? Here. So let's see, king f1, king f6, king c6, king e3, king on d5. How is the current position? By the feeling, it is a draw. So black is just in time to secure a draw. Could this position be a draw? Or maybe there is something that white is capable of doing? I think it is a draw. It is a draw because there is nothing that white can do here. Bishop takes e4 feels to be the best. The rest, in my opinion, just too slow. So maybe it is a draw. B takes c4. We have the move knight takes e4 with a draw just on the limit. But Nakamura is holding. That's why we will most probably see bishop takes c4. So take, knight takes on e4. Now maybe something like rook to e2, trying to win the pawn on e5. So we're gonna enter rook endgame with a pawn up. So knight on d6, for example. Take, take, take. This is a draw, but it's still a fight. So officially this is a draw. But it's not like such an easy draw. So it's not like immediately a draw. It's still a fight with a pawn up. So for example, rook a8, we're gonna see a check here, and rook to a1 followed by rook to a3. It's a draw, yeah, but it's a suffer. So let's see what happens. Yeah, we have this on the board. Bishop takes c4, knight e4, rook on e2. Of course, I believe knight on d6 is going to be played next. Maybe the move f5, but to weaken the king. Is it the right decision? Not sure. because now white might switch the plan and actually try to play on maybe f3 and then to keep the bishop, I don't know. But f5 played. Nakamura doesn't like to suffer in a rook endgame. Why? The question is why? It is a draw, so sometimes it's just better to suffer a little bit and make a draw. We have the move f5 on the board, f3. Now it's very tricky because the king is pretty weak, so we still have to go for the rook endgame. But why to play the move f5? Yeah, Nakamura is going for the rook endgame, but I don't understand why to include the move f5. Little bit strange. To my understanding, because now we have exactly the same, but we have f5 on the board, and I don't think it's a great move for black to have f5 on the board. Rook b4, yeah, of course, so take and take. So we have the endgame, but now there is a move f3 and f5 included. I don't think it's a great deal for black, in my opinion. Maybe it is still a draw, but why to include it? So we have the endgame, 3 minutes versus 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. Will Nakamura survive the current rook endgame? Let's see. We have a question in the chat. Knight takes g3. Knight takes g3, very, very dangerous because white is gonna take here the pawn. Knight is bad. a5 pawn is very weak, so this is probably not possible. I think it's correct that black is going for the current endgame, but I still don't understand why to include f3 and f5. Now we're gonna see the move rook a6, another check, because the king has to be moved back, and then white is gonna play king f2, trying to get the king to e3. This is gonna be not an easy hold for black now, in my opinion. Maybe, again, it is still a draw, but a little bit risky what Nakamura is doing. Maybe still a draw. We're move 39, so both players will get easily over move 40, but little pressure by Esipenko. I'm not sure that Esipenko is too happy because it felt like Esipenko was doing even better than the current endgame. But well, maybe sometimes to push pawn up rook endgame is not so bad. We have 1 minute 30 for Esipenko. I guess he's considering to play a5 first, but why to play a5? There is rook c2, rook to a2. Feels not like a great idea. So, or king f2 or check on a6, only two options. And king f2, you have to calculate rook on c2, king e3. Maybe there is another check. We go back, there is another check. We go up, and the rook on g2. g3 pawn might be under. He allows the move rook on c2. I don't understand this. What is the idea of the move a5? Rook on c2. What is Esipenko planning here? And maybe now I understand what he wants to play. He wants to go a6. Now rook a8. Let's say black plays something random. What could be a random move? I don't know. Maybe king goes back. Maybe he wants to go a7 and try now to run with the king. Rook will go away, then we run somewhere, then we have this check. So the white king is gonna go to e5. f6 is not possible because black is gonna keep the king on g7, but then there might be some idea of h5, but I think it is a draw. So strange idea. a5. I don't know. I don't know why to play the move a5. There's rook c2 now. And the king on g1 is cut on the first rank. I think it's just a draw. Rook on c2, very interesting. If Nakamura is going to play rook a4 or rook on c2. 1 minute. He has 1 minute to make the last move before getting additional 30 minutes on the clock. So very interesting moment. Rook c2 or rook a4. What do you think in the chat, please? Your opinions. Rook on c2 or rook a4? Rook on c3. None. None of what we thought is rook on c3. Really strange. Rook a4 makes sense to put the rook behind the pawn. Rook c2 makes sense to cut the white king. Rook on c3. What is the idea of Nakamura playing rook on c3? Feels so strange. Feels so strange. So, I don't know. I don't know why Nakamura plays the move rook on c3. I see that in the chat rook c2, yeah. I would have played also rook on c2. So why to play the move rook on c3 is so weird. Just strange. Because human-wise, or you play rook a4 or you play rook c2. This is the way usually you're thinking during the game. Or you cut the king, or you go behind the pawn. So both is looking normal. But what is Nakamura's thinking that rook c3? I can play king on g2, I can play king on f2. What does it change that you provoke me to walk with my king? Why to do that? Why to provoke me to go up with my king? I don't understand his thinking. For sure there is something, I'm 100% sure Nakamura has some plan. But what is his plan? This is the question. In case you want to provoke move like king f2, then you can just give a check. So give a check, I will play for sure king f2. Why to play the move rook on c3? I don't know. I don't know why to play move rook c3. Feels so weird to make this move. Let's see how the game is gonna end. I think that it's not such an easy draw. I think it should be a draw, but it's still not a draw completely. So it's gonna be a long suffer for Nakamura here. Esipenko can give a check first to push the king down, or to play king g2, or to play king on f2 position. Probably a draw, but it's not like an immediate draw. And actually Esipenko is quite good in pushing this kind of endgames. So he can play this endgames for a very long time. He's pushing little bit, step by step. He's very consistent. He likes to play better endgames. It's not gonna be an easy draw for Nakamura. So the question I see in the chat, why does it get 30 minutes? After move 40, there is 30 minutes additional time. Once the move 40 is on the board, the players are getting additional 30 minutes. We have the move king f2 been played, yeah. Very natural, of course. And probably we will see the move rook a3 by Nakamura. And what is the idea of Esipenko to play for a win? I think we have rook a8, a6, and then we have to run with the king. Or maybe, let's say, rook to a3 first to give a check. Let's see where the king goes. Let's say we go very safe on g7. And is there something better than rook a8? I don't think there is something better. White can play move h5, and now to play the move f4. So to try to get this kind of strange structure. So we're aiming to get king g2, king h3, but after we get the king to h3, there is a rook a1. And king h4 would be like a self checkmate. So it's not enough to win the game for white. Most probably white has to play rook a8, then we have to play the move a6, and then we start running. Or we put the pawn on a7, which in most of the cases would be still a draw, because the rook is just too passive, but it's a long game. So black has to be still precise to hold the game into a draw. In normal circumstances, I believe Nakamura is going to hold the current game into a draw. We can expect a draw, but it's still a fight. So, king f2 been played. Nakamura is considering to play the move rook a3, or I don't know, I'm not sure what. because it feels just like the best move. Of course you can give a check, but it's a bit risky to go for this kind of positions. Rook c2 for example, king e3, check, check, we go king on d3, rook on g2 to go for g3 pawn. It doesn't feel so great. We have a6, take, and maybe come back, king e3. Now rook tries to go back to a1, rook b7, rook a1, a7. Is it a draw? Yeah, it should be still a draw. So maybe even this is holding, but it doesn't feel great. I don't think Nakamura is gonna play it. By the feeling, it doesn't feel great. Also, white can try to start first with the move rook b7, take, and now something very, very tricky like rook to b3, or I don't know if this is working. Maybe a6, take, run, rook goes to a3. This is looking like a draw. It should be a draw. Okay, maybe it's still a draw, but it feels bad to play move rook on c2. I don't think Nakamura is gonna do that. Feels not the best way. Let me read for a second the chat. Yes, that's correct. After move 40, extra 30 minutes for each player. By the way, please like and subscribe in case you're enjoying my comments. I will be commenting as well the next round of the candidates, more or less same time. I'm starting approximately 7 p.m. Dubai time. It's already 2.5 hours into the game. Alright, Nakamura is still not sure to give a check on c2 or to play rook to a3. Let's see what Nakamura is going to play next. I estimate it should be a draw. The game is going to end in a draw, but it's going to be a long game. It's not going to be an easy draw for Nakamura. Esipenko is going to make him suffer a little bit for the draw. I think overall Esipenko has missed some chances. It felt very, very good for white, but then we had this c4 push. Let me go back to the c4 push because I think it's a very important moment here. a4, rook c6. Actually, Nakamura played rook c6 with the idea c4. Very difficult idea because it feels like, yeah, there should be no c4. And Esipenko has missed the move c4 by playing rook c2. He did not expect the move c4. Otherwise, he would have done something else. Or c4. Very creative way for Nakamura to secure a draw. Maybe to take here with a pawn, but now knight on e4, I'm not sure. Maybe white is capable of playing a little bit for a win here, but I think black can simply play knight on d7 followed by knight c5. This should be a draw. The knight is way too powerful on c5 to do something. Bishop is now so bad on f1. So yeah, maybe a fantastic move c4 saves the day for Nakamura. Now we have this endgame. Quite forced. f5. Strange decision. I would have gone immediately. Knight d6. And we get by force this rook endgame. It should be a draw. A little bit strange move, rook c3. Rook c2 check. Now Esipenko is considering king to e3. Well, what else? What else is there? King e3 is sort of forced. Maybe Esipenko is calculating rook on g2. Could it be a forced draw? But still, even if you think it is a forced draw, you still go king to e3 because there are no other major chances of playing for a win. Yes, we see the move king to e3. Rook to c3. The next move will be king e2, check, king d3, and probably Nakamura wants to secure a draw by playing rook on g2. I don't like it because white to try to make a forced draw in a position where you can just build up a solid fortress and it's gonna be a draw. So Nakamura was, in my opinion, a risky play, and it is still a draw, but he is risking he is risking to lose the game. Alright. We have a much more calm round than the round of yesterday. We have already 3 draws. Most probably the current game is going to be a draw as well. So 4 draws in the second round of the candidates. This is what is expected currently. Little chances for Esipenko, but usually Nakamura should be able to hold this kind of position to a draw. He's too strong to lose this kind of endgames. Yes, King E2 been played, as we said. King Rook on C2 check is the next move by Nakamura. And yes, if he plays now Rook A3, I don't understand the last moves by Black. Maybe it does not change anything major, but Nakamura could have the same position, but with the Rook on A2 and the King cut it on the first ring, which is much easier, in my opinion. Welcome everyone who is new. Here on VChess we do educational chess content mainly. So in case you're enjoying my human comments of the games, I am not using an engine. Please like, please subscribe, please tell your friends that there is a new channel VChess that is about educational chess content. Alright, till we have to wait now here. What happens next? Nakamura is thinking, double checking. If Rook C2 is a draw, it should be a draw. So he's double checking these lines with a move Rook to G2. It looks a bit tricky. Again, I would not play something like Rook to G2 because you might miss something and then you suffer. So is it a draw? Yeah, I believe it should be still a draw. So we can expect a draw in the game of Esipenko against Nakamura. From my side, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my comments. I will be back with the next round of the candidates. I'm starting always same time, 7 p.m. Dubai time, so it's approximately 2.5 hours into the game already. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow and wish you still enjoyable evening, morning, night, wherever you are. Thanks and see you tomorrow. Bye.